let's talk about launches and how you should be launching your Amazon FBA product to page 1 with the lowest risk possible today. Let's go. Let's clarify a few things. So how do you launch your product? How do you get it to page 1? What do you have to do? Should you do giveaways? Are there other ways? Can you do pay-per-click launches and still have it go to the first page of Amazon? There has been a lot of controversy about giveaways not working, or about PPC launches, or how to actually get your product there. And I just wanted to clarify a few things and let you know exactly how I launch all my products, how I have been doing it since day 1, how I'm still doing it since day 1. And I wanted to get into a little bit more detail about these types of processes. So let's begin. So what is a launch? Why do we even need a launch? So the whole point is to get sales to your product, to get eyes on your product, because when people see your product, they buy your product if it adds enough value. And how do you get eyes on your product? You get to page 1 of Amazon. If you're not on page 1 of Amazon, you're basically dead, right? That is what you hear, and that is why everyone tries to launch their product to the first page as soon as their Amazon product is in the Amazon warehouse. So how can you go about this, right? You can launch it with giveaways, which is heavily discounted coupon codes that is tricking Amazon's algorithm to basically make it look like your product is getting a lot of sales, when in reality it is not. They are free things. And while yes, that sounds like it might work, there are a lot of things that could go wrong. For example, you launch your product to page 1 just because you assume it's a good product, which it might be, it might not be. It gets to page 1 and then it falls off the page 1 and you don't get organic sales. So that's kind of the issue we're trying to prevent. And the thing with giveaways is that they cost a lot of money. Let's say you order 500 units and you need to give away 300 of them in order to get to page 1 within that 7 to 8 day period. So when you actually give all of those away, you're left with the 200 units. That is a very hefty like hit to your pocket, because 300 units you already paid for them, plus you have the addition of the Amazon packing fees, which is whatever based by the weight and the size of your product. That's a lot of money as well. Multiply that fee by 300, plus you're paying a launch service most likely than not to actually find people that want your product to give away that product. So it really adds up. And the worst risk of it all isn't necessarily like even paying for the fees or the service, and that the risk is that essentially you can just lose your total 500 units, and that's because you're not actually getting real data of why your product is selling. Sure, you may be like inflated and it may look good, like textbook definition, if you are on page 1 of Amazon, but you're not just actually getting real data. You're not getting any customer input. You're not getting any type of fine-tuning or modification of what you can do to your product. And that's where it becomes really dangerous, because when people get to the first page without having any feedback from actual customers that are shopping for the product, they can really quickly fall off the first page. And then what do they do then? They don't do anything. Now they have all these extra units that no one is buying. They're gonna try to launch it with PPC. It's just going to be a disaster. So what's the solution? I will tell you the solution. This is what I have been doing my entire life in the Amazon FBA industry, and it's the actual solution that I teach exclusively in my Amazon FBA INTOAMILLI course. It is linked down below, and that is the low risk way. Not only do you save money and get actual data from customers, but you're just minimizing your risk before even getting your product, okay? And I teach all my students to launch with pay-per-click. Now, I know there are a lot of things that might be going through your head. What PPC strategy should I use? Is it expensive? Is it a lot slower? I want this faster. Is it gonna work? How am I gonna get all that sales velocity? And it doesn't just come down to the PPC strategy. It comes down to actually figuring out your strategy before you even go into doing PPC. And what I mean by that is picking the right product in the right market. People do not emphasize this, and this is a complete game changer. You cannot go into Amazon selling coat hangers, selling ketchup bottles. I know this sounds lame, or just selling commodity items. You cannot do that anymore. Maybe 3 years ago, you could put any random listing on and the demand was so high and the competition was so low that everybody still bought. But now you really have to create the best offer in a really, really niche industry, because if you do what everyone else is doing, those items are in Target, they are in Walmart, they are in CVS, they are everywhere you look. So if you do that exact same thing, no one is going to buy your product. What you can do is, okay, say you have a lot of money that you just want to throw at the wall and see what sticks, then you pay for giveaways. Say you have to give away like 500 units to get to the first page, and that's like a bare minimum. Let's say if you're in a really competitive market, it's 1,000. You get to the first page, but what you are not taking into account that all of those sellers already have a history with Amazon. They have a good BSR, they have a stable spot they dug into on the first page, plus they have hundreds if not thousands of reviews. So you cannot compete with that just because you match the sales velocity, because the most important thing is, are customers actually buying your product? And if you can get a customer to buy your product will essentially launch itself. And I am not kidding you. It makes the entire Amazon FBA process so much easier when you actually find the right product in the right market. That all has to align, and then launching a proper launch strategy just becomes so much easier to put together, because you don't have to do anything black hat, you don't have to spend a lot of money, it's very, very low risk. And as long as you provide a better offer, a better value, and your listing is optimized for all the back-end keywords and just all the main keywords, and you know what you're doing there, and your pictures are amazing, then a PPC launch is so powerful. And in my course, I have exactly everything that I just talked about: how to find the right product in the right market, how to make sure your listing is both visually aesthetic as well as optimized on the back end to feed into Amazon's algorithm to make sure you rank, and then also a corresponding pay-per-click strategy that's going to actually launch your product to the first page with the lowest risk as possible. Because I understand not everybody, not even me, I don't want to pump in a bunch of money into something and being uncertain if it's going to work. But with this way, you diversify your risk, and it's very, very low risk. With that same amount of capital that you have that you can pump into one product, hoping for a large revenue, you can split it into potentially 3 products, get a smaller MOQ order, which is what I teach, and then be able to launch it to the first page for a very, very low fraction of a percentage than if you were to do giveaways or any of that. And it's just so much better for you that way. So this is my suggestion, right? It's finding the right product in the right market, making sure everything is optimized, and then you go into PPC strategies and you launch it with that. Now, what does PPC do? What it does is just gets more eyeballs to your product. So say you are not on the first page. So how do you get to the first page? You can outbid all the sponsored ads on the first page and actually appear as a sponsored ad on the first page. And if somebody is looking at your product and it looks much better, you're offering more value, the offer as a whole already looks much more enticing and aesthetically appealing than everyone else. People are going to click on your product and they're going to buy it. Now, you're not going to get a complete flood of sales. And again, in my course, I teach different PPC ways of where you can show up for different words so you can maximize the sales. But especially when you're first starting out, maybe it might be slower than ranking your product with giveaways, because it takes time to gather that customer data. But what you do essentially, you're not in a competitive market. So to get that sales velocity doesn't even have to be that many sales as if it were if you were in a really competitive market. So what do? You slowly start fine-tuning things. Say you have a image and you're running ads, people are clicking but they're not buying. So what does that tell you? Something is wrong. Maybe something is wrong either with your product, whether it's your offer or your listing, or if something is wrong with your market. And if you are tweaking things as time goes by, which is what I suggest, because you'll notice that if you're running PPC campaigns and then let's say you're testing your images, you switch the image out and you start getting more sales. You switch the price around, you start getting more sales. You optimize them more, you get more sales. You put more descriptive things into your listing, you can get more sales, right? So when you see that, that's how you kind of slowly make fine adjustments and you're getting actual feedback on what's actually going to get your product sold. But the issue becomes when people are not buying your product, but you are running all these ads, what does that tell you? That tells you that there is something either wrong with your product or the market. And if you cannot get your product to sell with just organic ways such as that, then your product is probably not going to sell if you do giveaways and end up on the first page. And that is the flaw with giveaways. It's not necessarily that it doesn't work, because it does work. It gets your product to page 1. The flaw that it has is that it doesn't give you actual customer data that shows you if anyone's actually interested enough to buying your product. They're just literally buying it because it's like $1, and who wouldn't buy anything that's $1, right? If you see everyone else selling it for 30 and someone is selling it for $1, just anyone would be like, okay, why not? I'll just gift this, even if I don't want it, even if it's bad quality, I have nothing to lose. So that's kind of the issue with that, and it's exactly why I try to literally save you as much money as possible, decrease your stress level so you don't even have to invest as much as possible. And that has allowed me to test several products, because in Amazon you never really know if something's gonna sell until you actually get it into the warehouse and actually get the sales and get the customer feedback. So I hope this was helpful. All the links are down below. I have a course, I have one-on-one coaching, I have a Facebook group, Instagram, everything. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.